What's going on, everybody? This is Kaleb, your favorite Kung Fu fanatic. Welcome back to the official spin-off channel for Kaleb's Kung Fu Cinema, my bi-weekly podcast where I cover all your favorite martial arts films. It's a miracle. 2 videos in 1 week. I actually managed to do that this time. Yeah, we got another video for you this week. I did one a couple of days ago on the I did a review of the Bruce Lee, his greatest hits box set from the Criterion collection. And today we're going to be doing something a little different. My previous videos have been Blu-ray or DVD reviews or unboxings. Most of them unboxings, but today I don't have anything to review, sort of, and I don't have anything to unbox for you guys, but today we're going to be doing a comparison video. So today I have here the Protector. You guys may remember that I did an unboxing a few weeks ago, and this was one of them. The other movie being another Jackie Chan movie, Crime Story, which I revisited that movie recently, watched it again, and it's great. I love Crime Story just as much as I did the first time I saw it. But today, yeah, we're going to be talking about The Protector. This is a movie that is... I mentioned it whenever I did the unboxing video that this movie is pretty divisive among action film fans, Jackie Chan fans, etc. You guys see where I'm going. But I put off seeing it for a really long time, and just eventually I was like, okay, you know what? I need to check this movie out because there were so many people talking about the differences with both cuts of the film. This movie has 2 cuts. It's got the original US cut, and then it has the Hong Kong cut, which is the movie. It's the same movie except it was re-edited by Jackie Chan. A lot of reshoots were done. He added a whole subplot to it. I won't revisit any of that here because I talked about it quite a bit in the unboxing video. So if you guys want to hear more of like the story of how the Protector went, like how the filming and the production was and everything, you guys can check out that video. And there's a whole lot of other sources out there that you can see or read, rather. Sorry, where you know they all explain like the situation with the movie, why Jackie decided he wanted to go back and re-edit it. The short version is Jackie and the director James Glickenhaus, they didn't see eye to eye at all, basically, whenever making The Protector. And James Glickenhaus, the director, he had his own way of doing things. Jackie didn't agree with it, and he wanted to do certain things in The Protector a little differently. But the movie was done, and Jackie, right before the film was released in Hong Kong, Jackie decided he wanted to go back and do some reshoots because he didn't like the fight scenes. And the original US cut it's also very violent, and it's got a lot of nudity and a lot of cussing and stuff like that. Jackie didn't really care for most of it, apparently, and he wanted to cut a lot of that out and then do better action sequences. James Glickenhaus had no interest in returning to do the reshoots, so he just let Jackie direct the reshoots himself right before the film was released in Hong Kong. And so today I am going to talk about, I'm going to compare both cuts of the film because I watched both of them, and I had a pretty different feeling from watching the US cut and from watching the Hong Kong cut. Like it was kind of like I watched one version of it and I thought, I didn't really like that too much. And then I watched the other version and I thought, that was a lot better. And so, you guys can probably tell where I'm going with this. I'll just say bluntly, I did not like the US cut of The Protector. I did not like it. It's very... I've encountered many people, ever since I got this movie and I started talking about it on social media and stuff like that, I've encountered several people who have a lot of love for the US cut, and I completely understand that. I can see why they love it so much. It's a very down and dirty, like brutal, grindhouse style film, and many people love stuff like that. I have a little bit of love for stuff like that, but sometimes, you know, there are just certain films or certain aspects of a film, like in the grindhouse genre, that I don't really care for. That's just me though. But yeah, the US cut I didn't really care for, and and the cussing and the nudity, that didn't bother me. What my problem with it was, I felt that the movie itself was just very slow and uneventful. The action was very uneventful. There's a really long boat chase at the beginning where Jackie's chasing this I'll say this goon who killed his partner like very early on in the movie, and Jackie goes after him. This leads to a boat chase along the coast of New York, and it's just very slow. It's several minutes of just establishing shots and these two boats going in a straight line, and it just wasn't very fun. And I didn't really care for the fight scenes. There's a fight scene in a massage parlor that could have been good had it not been dragged down by several minutes of Jackie Chan and his partner, Danny Aiello. This is his new partner, because like I said, early on in the movie, his first partner gets killed. He gets a new one, played by Danny Aiello. And, rest in peace, Danny Aiello was a great actor. But he, there's a fight in the massage parlor, but before that, it's just bogged down by several minutes of Danny Aiello and Jackie, just getting massages and pedicures and just joking with each other. I didn't really care for that. I thought it was going on for way too long. And then when the fight scene finally did happen, the choreography is not very inspired. Jackie's doing a lot of, it was like Bruce Lee style choreography, which was kind of the point, because James Glickenhaus, like, there's an interview on this Blu-ray called Hard Edge. It's a brand new interview with James Glickenhaus, and he talks about his experiences with the film and stuff like that. And he mentioned that he was a fan of Bruce Lee. And you can see that in this movie, because Jackie's choreography, and I'm talking the US cut right now, Jackie's choreography in the US cut is it's very quick. He like lands a couple of hits, guys are down, he moves on to the next thing. That was very Bruce Lee style. But yeah, that's what he likes. And in the interview, James Glickenhaus said that he doesn't like the acrobatic aspect of martial arts. Whenever he was hired on to do The Protector, and I actually watched a couple of videos from Will from the Hong Kong Cinema Appreciation Society, which is a great channel. Go check that channel out. There's some excellent videos. I've had I wouldn't say conversations with Will. We've had a couple of we've had a couple of words with each other, like through comments and stuff. He's a great guy. He's very smart. I really enjoy watching his videos. But he did a couple of videos where he talks about The Protector, and he did a very quick comparison of the two. And he mentioned this, and this had never occurred to me, and I thought it was very interesting. So I'm quoting Will here from the Hong Kong Cinema Appreciation Society. He thought it was interesting how, full disclosure, James Glickenhaus was hired to do this movie, and that's exactly what he did. He did his job, but it was interesting that he was brought on to do a Jackie Chan movie, but he didn't like the things that Jackie Chan was known for doing, the slapstick comedy, the very acrobatic style of martial arts he was doing, because this was early on, before this film. Earlier on in his career, he was doing a lot of shapes films, like Snake and Eagle's Shadow and Drunken Master and stuff like that, and Fearless Hyena. So yeah, in those films, it's all shapes kung fu. There's a lot of acrobatics and very comedic slapstick stuff going on during the fight scenes. Yeah, apparently James didn't like any of that stuff, and so he was a fan of Bruce Lee. He wanted the fight scenes to be like quicker and more hard hitting and more brutal. And I just thought it was kind of interesting whenever Will had mentioned that it's strange how he was brought on to do a movie, but he didn't like what Jackie Chan was known for doing, and he kind of tried to turn Jackie into this very stoic, Dirty Harry. Dirty Harry was a character name that got thrown around quite a bit. This very stoic Dirty Harry type character, and and at the time, that's not what Jackie was known for. And Jackie would go on to do a lot of really dark stuff, like Crime Story, like I mentioned, or The Foreigner from back from 2017. Yeah, James had his own ideas for what he wanted to do with the fight scenes, and I'll be honest, I didn't really like them. I know he was trying to. I know he liked Bruce Lee. He was trying to do like that Bruce Lee style fight choreography, and I see where he's coming from, but I don't know. Whenever I watch this and I see it's Jackie Chan, I just can't help but feel like, okay, why is this so slow? And there's like just a lot of meandering around it, and in the final fight, Jackie fights Bill Wallace, legendary kickboxer right there. And that final fight scene in the US cut, there were several times where I was thinking, can we get back to the fighting, please? Because there's a couple of quick exchanges, and then they just kind of slowly move back over to the the next section of the warehouse that they're in, and they just like slowly move over there, and then there's a couple more exchanges, and then just very slowly walking around and resetting. I didn't like any of that, and just the overall the film is just very dour and very slow and uneventful. So yeah, when I got done watching the US cut, I was kind of underwhelmed. I didn't think it was that great. But then I went back and I watched the Hong Kong cut, which is Jackie Chan's re-edited version. Again, Jackie Chan didn't like a lot of things about the US cut, so he went back and did reshoots. He added a whole new subplot, which he felt apparently gave the story and some of the characters more depth, and he redid the final fight scene with Bill Wallace. The massage spa fight scene is pretty much the same, except it's trimmed down a little bit. There's more close-ups and a little more quick cutting, just to kind of fasten the pace a little bit. That was another problem with the US cut. The pace is very slow, and I mentioned that it's just very slow and uneventful. The pace in the Hong Kong cut is a lot faster. The boat chase was trimmed down significantly, probably by over a minute, maybe a minute and a half, and so it's not just several minutes of establishing shots and two boats going in a straight line trying to catch up with each other or whatever, and then the massage parlor fight, it goes by a little quicker. It's not as slow. The pacing in the Hong Kong cut, I think is better. I mean, I love fast-paced action movies. That's not to downplay movies that have a slow pace. Like, there are plenty of movies out there that have a deliberate pace, and a lot of times it works. But I don't know, just in this instance for me, I didn't think it really worked. And I don't know, maybe that's because I guess I'm just a little biased towards Jackie Chan movies. Jackie Chan is known for doing very fast-paced stuff. But the another thing that the Hong Kong cut added was this extra fight scene with Bill Wallace, because in the US cut, there's only one fight scene that Bill Wallace does, which is the final fight with Jackie. In the Hong Kong cut, they gave him another fight scene, which I thought was great. I think the original cut really needed this, and that is when Bill Wallace's character fights Li Hoi Song's character. Li Hoi Song is in the Hong Kong cut only, like just the Hong Kong cut of The Protector. For those of you who don't know, he was in stuff like 36 Chamber of Shaolin, which is a great movie. He was one of my favorite characters in that movie. But he plays a guy who is helping this informant who's who's trying to get some information for Jackie and Danny Aiello, because they're on a case in Hong Kong trying to find the daughter of a very famous businessman over in New York. She's been kidnapped by a Chinese gangster, and played by Roy Chow, he was pretty good. I've always liked Roy Chow. But yeah, they go to Hong Kong to find her and arrest Roy Chow, and Benny Garucci, which is Bill Wallace's character, he comes in to help them out, and he has a fight scene with Lee Hoi-sung, and it's really good. I liked it. I think the US cut needed that because it really sets up Bill Wallace as like a real threat. And, you know, you see him fight and you're like, oh, I can't wait to see him fight Jackie, because you don't get that feeling when you watch the US cut, because he doesn't really do anything other than just kind of stand there, and he says some questionable things. I won't say here. Just check the movie out. You'll know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I really think that fight scene was needed. And then we get to the end where Jackie and Bill Wallace fight, and it is so much better. The choreography is a lot better. It's a lot quicker. There's not so much. There isn't several minutes of Jackie and Bill just kind of standing there or circling each other, or slowly moving to one section of the warehouse to the next. And there's a really great spot. Jackie added this little spot in the reshoot where where they're by a chain link fence. He hops onto it and does this crazy backflip, which looked incredible. And he like lands behind Bill and then just throws him behind, like throws him overhead. And Bill also, there's also another spot where Bill knocks Jackie into the fence, but Jackie bounces back and does a Superman punch. It was really cool. But yeah, and you can actually tell, I thought this was kind of funny. You can actually tell that several parts were reshoots, because there's a close-up right before the fight starts. There's a close-up of Jackie, and his hair looks slightly different, you know. So it's like one shot, his hair is kind of, I don't know. I'm not gonna try to recreate it with my own hair, but it was just kind of like swooped over a little bit. But then it cuts to another close-up, and his hair is like kind of parted down the middle a little bit. You could tell that was a reshoot. But the fight with Bill Wallace in the Hong Kong cut was way better in my opinion. The choreography was better. It was faster paced. And they changed the finale of that up a little bit too. So towards the end of the fight, Bill Wallace starts coming at Jackie with a concrete saw, and in the US cut again, it's very slow. He's just very slowly and lazily swinging it around, and in the Hong Kong cut, Jackie again trims some of that down to make it look like he was swinging it faster. And then they add this thing where Jackie picks up this big wooden pallet and Bill saws right through it. And then the ending is pretty much the same though. Bill he unintentionally shoves the concrete saw into this big electric junction box, I guess is what you call it, and he electrocutes himself and dies. Spoiler. Yeah, I thought the ending was also a lot better. It's just again not as slow. He doesn't look like he's very sloppily swinging this concrete saw around. But those were like just the really significant changes. There's actually a very interesting special feature on this Blu-ray. This is again from this is the Protector. It's from 88 Films. It is a UK Blu-ray, which is Region B. So if you guys want to get your hands on this, make sure you have a region-free Blu-ray player, or just like another way to actually view this, because it won't play on a regular Blu-ray player in the States. And but there's, like I said, there's a really interesting special feature on here where they compare both films. They do like a side-by-side comparison of both cuts of the films. It's not the entire film, but it's just like the really significant differences. And that was really interesting to watch. I watched that thing like twice. I did a lot of research for this. But yeah, I think, in all honesty, I think the Hong Kong cut is better. There's a lot of people who think the US cut is better, and again, I completely understand that. I can see why they would feel that way, because the subplot, and this is like the biggest problem with the Hong Kong cut, the subplot that Jackie adds, it wasn't really needed. It was not necessary, and I can fully acknowledge that it wasn't needed. It had a character played by Sally Ye, and Jackie, like I said, evidently felt that this subplot added some more depth to it. I didn't necessarily agree with that. I watched it and I thought you didn't really need any of that. So that was probably a mistake to add the subplot. And I think what I think the best thing that could have been done is that, you know, James Glickenhaus made the movie he wanted to make. That's fine. But if he had actually kind of just thrown Jackie a bone and let him do the action, because there was an incident apparently where Jackie told James that he could direct the fight scenes, and James said no. And so I feel like maybe if he had just kind of thrown Jackie a bone and let him do the fight scenes, this movie would probably, the process of making this movie and the movie itself would probably be a lot smoother, and none of that would have happened. But yeah, just the subplot that Jackie added, that was probably the biggest mistake he made with this movie. It really wasn't necessary. The only thing that I probably would have taken from the Hong Kong cut that would have worked better in the US cut, if they had actually done it that way, were, you know, Bill Wallace and Jackie's fight scene, as well as Bill's fight scene with Li Hui Song. Like, those two things, if you put that in the US cut, I probably would have loved the US cut. But yeah, I was really disappointed with it. I prefer Jackie's version, honestly. And if I ever revisit this movie, I'm probably going to stick with Jackie's version. Except for whenever I decide to do a podcast episode on this, I'm probably going to have to do the US version because that's the more accessible one. There are a lot of people who haven't seen Jackie's version. And, you know, if you don't have this, I honestly don't know of another way you could watch the Hong Kong version that Jackie did. But yeah, whenever I do a podcast episode of this, I'm probably going to have to stick with the US cut because that's the one that's more accessible. But yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys real quick and just do a quick comparison of the two. It's the movie itself, just learning about it. Like I said, I did a lot of research on it. I talked to a lot of people about it. And just watching both cuts of the film, the movie is fascinating. I really enjoyed watching both cuts, even if I didn't like the US cut that much. In the overall realm of things, I guess, I don't know. I'm not good with words today, I guess. But in the overall look of things, I enjoyed watching both cuts of the films. I really enjoyed the research and everything. You know, just Jackie's version for me was more fun. It felt more like a Jackie Chan movie. Because the US cut of the Protector doesn't really feel like one, if I'm being completely honest. If you feel that way, if you feel differently about that, that's fine though. I get it. But yeah, that's it for this video, guys. Thanks for tuning into the channel. If this was your first time, thank you so much for finding me. Before we go, I'll give you guys one more reminder. I recently started a Patreon. Tiers start at $3. I'm going to leave a link in the description. I'll also leave a link to the 88 Films website where you can order the Protector Blu-ray if you guys are interested in picking that up. I'll also leave a link to all of my, it's my link tree. You can get to my social media and the platforms that the podcast is available on. Once again, I host a podcast called Kaleb's Kung Fu Cinema. It's available on all major platforms. We air new episodes every other Saturday. This video is going up on a Saturday, but the next Saturday, March 19th, is going to be episode 37 of Kaleb's Kung Fu Cinema. We're going to be talking about a classic Kung Fu film, The Flying Guillotine. I'm really excited to talk about that. That's a great movie. I love Flying Guillotine. So yeah, that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in. Like, share, subscribe, hit the bell to stay notified, and all that good stuff. And don't forget to tune in to Kaleb's Kung Fu Cinema on March 19th. And we're going to talk about The Flying Guillotine. And, oh, by the way, listener questions. If you guys follow me on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and you guys have listener questions, it can be literally anything. You can ask me whatever you want. If you want us to answer your question on the podcast, just DM them to me either through Facebook or Instagram. And just let me know, you had a question for the podcast, and we'll answer them on the next episode. So, yeah, that's it for today, guys. Thank you, and I will see you in the next video.